Justice! Welcome to Kira's Japan and Kira's world. Do not commit crimes, because Kira is watching.
And I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Oh, I'll take a potato chip with one hand and write names with the other. Oh my god. Okay, so today we're talking about Deathnote because I just finished it and I refuse to watch the movie now.
And who are you?
I'm Zach.
俺の名前はマッシュさん。
Matt. And
I'm Becca. Kawaii desu. Chan. Okay.
alright, so the reason I wanted to talk about Death Note today is because I've just finished absolutely incredible. Okay, I'm not too
You
invested.
just finished the series.
Just finished the series.
Yeah.
I watched it in
Okay.
like about a week or so, and it was absolutely addicting.
Yep.
Obviously, with Light and L, the chess game between them
Yes.
is the most incredible thing
It's
in this world. Oh,
I think.
it's so. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's so intense. I feel like the first season is just like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? But
To go off of that point, I feel as though most people who've seen it would agree that the show kind of falls off as soon as L dies. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert: L dies.
yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, and
That the payoff to that though, like seeing the forethought and everything of how the way they have to interact with each other.
Sure.
Like, well, the police department thinks they're 2 steps ahead.
Yep.
Where meanwhile, Light and L are thinking 30 steps.
they don't give a
It's
fuck.
insane.
That's that's supposed to be the whole point.
Yeah,
Is
and
nobody
intelligence level.
nobody who would own a Death Note and get to that
That's
point
true.
Yeah.
wouldn't be as intelligent as Light, and nobody who would be able to fight him as the main I guess antagonist. I mean, would you
Yeah.
even consider L? I would probably consider L more of the protagonist in a sense of he's way more just.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Kira's like the anti-hero.
Yes,
Similarly
that's
how
right.
you would like consider Deadpool or something.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's so hard to choose like who to root for because
Yeah.
like you're rooting for them the entire time because it's like, oh, that's so great, that's so smart, and then like the other one goes and like messes it up,
Fucks it up.
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
amazing, and it's just like
It's absolutely amazing.
It's so much fun.
So,
to watch.
and we should also just say, if you have not, seen Death Note, we should just go through like the very basic things. Is the idea that there is a idea of the Shinigami realm, which is apparently, I guess, the gods of death. I'm
Right.
trying
Yes.
to describe
Right.
this, but they all have death notes where if you write a name in a notebook, that then the person dies.
And depending on the description that you also write as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
And so if a death note falls to the human realm and is picked up by a human, they can use that power of writing a name and killing somebody. And they also can there's a bunch of other rules that go on. They can see Shinigami, which is the god of death, and it has to be described as a chess game is because of the fact that the rules very clearly state like this is the powers of the Death Note, and you can't exist outside of them, and it's playing around those.
Yes.
So who you will find picking up the Death Note is a high schooler by the name of Light, who is a
Light
super
Yagami,
genius.
yep.
Light Yagami, who's a super genius, and the detective trying to find him, who goes by the name L, is his I don't know what the term for that would be. Alias, very good.
Yeah.
The idea that L is trying to catch who they describe as Kira, which is the kind of the title given to this person that is causing these deaths.
And Kira is actually it's a Japanese supposed to refer to the word killer.
There's a word for that. I just
right.
can't remember.
Well, that's why they call him Kira, because he's a killer. Similar in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, one of the main antagonists is Killer Queen, but in the way you pronounce it is Kira Queen. It's just Japanese language is really derivative on the English narrative, so it's really interesting to see that, especially in a very early 2000s work of an anime. It's also important to point out that the father of Light Yagami, who is Kira, the person who's writing all the names in the notebook, is the detective who's working alongside of L. Trying to find his own son, who he doesn't even realize. And the Shinigami Ryuk, who drops the notebook into the human realm. I haven't seen the show in many years, but I'm pretty sure it's just because he was bored.
Yes,
He was just
exactly.
absolutely bored, and he was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna drop
Yeah.
this notebook and see what happens, and it ends up getting picked up by a psychotic high schooler. So
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I really like kind of enjoyed about it is because usually when you have this idea of gods coming down to interfere in the lives of humans, they're very active.
Right.
Where Ryuk's just like, these humans are very interesting. Like that's all he does. He eats apples the entire time. Like,
He's just watching
Willem
everything.
Dafoe.
Oh my god.
And yeah, it's nice to kind of see that even though the human has a godlike power,
Yeah.
but it's not a god acting through a human. It's just the fact that, hey, I'm gonna see what happens.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
incredible because
Right.
it does speak a little bit to power in a certain person's hands can go totally out of control.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
even if they do have good intentions.
Oh
which,
yeah.
I mean, he does.
Yeah, and it also shows the moralistic capabilities of like humankind, where even though Light, who is classified as a genius on his level, is able to have and acquire this power, he eventually succumbs to his own extreme desires of just wanting to be able to purge the world of everything that he sees as not correct or right in his own sense, and I'm using air quotes here. But ultimately, the whole end goal for Light Yagami is just to eradicate people who he doesn't seem, he doesn't deem worthy or he doesn't see fit. And it's funny because even though he's such a genius, he still cannot escape those kind of moralistic boundaries, the moralistic decisions that he has to make. Coinciding with just using the notebook in general, and just understanding that he's a murderer for using it.
And I think that is the crux of the story there.
That's the message, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and because the people that Light is punishing by killing them, they are wrongdoers. They have been at least accused or convicted of a crime. But it's the idea of, if you are going to convict a person of a crime, they need to be held by a trial of their peers, and they need to go through the process. But for Light, being this idealist, this person that believes in just pure black and white justice, he decides, if you commit a crime, you die for it. And I think that's where that is where the antagonism between L and Light comes in.
Yes, because Light is being the judge, jury, and the prosecutioner,
all in one.
All in one.
Yep, exactly.
And because he's deciding to take on that role because he's a genius, or even if he's a self-classified genius, even if it's only in his own mindset, he's still choosing to say, I have this power, I know what is right and what is wrong, even though that's completely subjective, and he's choosing to end people's lives and kill them, just because he can, and that ends up leading to a lot of different problems.
And I think the wonderful thing about this show is that, at least for me personally, the entire time I'm rooting for Light until I realize, oh wait, no, hold on.
Yeah. He has to reevaluate yourself.
He's actually fucking nuts.
And that's what makes it so rewarding, is because when you get a show that you're able to kind of root with the guy that is going against the laws, but he's doing what he thinks is right. And at the very end of the show, you're like, oh wait a second, he was just killing people the entire. And I just
he had a god complex.
How it goes to his character too. He's a very manipulative person, and in that way, he's almost manipulating the audience. To taking his side.
That's a great point.
Totally right. Oh man.
Even in his own sense, he's taking a potato chip and eating it. And it's like, I can relate to that. He must be a good guy. I eat potato chips like all the fucking time. I should murder people. That's what I understand now.
Oh my god. We also should talk about a little bit the idea of how the show is portrayed, because it is an anime. And one thing that I think just is powerful in that visual medium is that in those moments of intense contemplation on both L's side as well as Light's, they do the narration of what they're thinking after what they say, and getting that insight into how they're playing that game. Instead
of just kind of like guessing what they're thinking and seeing what's going to happen next.
Yeah, you're able to portray it in a lot more of a serious light in a way.
I really feel like it speeds up the pace too of it.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, like with like a lot of other movies, like live action movies, where it's like really like quiet and it's like it's really tense moment and you're not really sure what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think, and again, I haven't seen the live action one that was just produced. It was
I refuse to see it. I've not only heard terrible things about it, but I had a friend who had a heart attack after watching it and went into the hospital. So,
all right.
I now know.
Name written in a notebook?
Maybe.
I've seen reviews of it, and I feel like there are good parts of the story.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I know that the character that's supposed to be like the Misa type
Okay.
really is the strongest character in the live action version,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
really ironic because Misa,
She's
whatever.
very,
passive.
very, very submissive to.
if anything,
to
like she's like she's there for comedy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So,
she's
do
really
you
good.
mind any spoilers? Because I know about
Oh
the movie.
no, go please.
So
go
in
spoilers.
the live action film, supposedly, because I have not seen it, but I've had multiple conversations with people who have. Misa is essentially trying to become Light, and Light, the person who plays him in the film, is a complete wuss and doesn't want the responsibility or the power of having the Notebook. At least towards the end of his relationship with Ryuk and the Notebook itself, Misa ends up trying to manipulate Light into attempting to get the Notebook for herself. She ends up dying in the process. It's a very different kind of tone.
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of play style, and I've just heard absolutely awful things about it. I've heard that it is nothing like the show. I've heard that it is a very like negative caricature of the entire emphasis of the show, which is Light's complex of superiority and trying to become a god. Whereas in the movie he's apparently a complete pussy and doesn't want to do any of those things and just cries every time Willem Dafoe comes on screen, which I think is hilarious because I've
heard his performance as Ryuk is actually
I've heard his
Yeah,
performance is very
that's
good. Yes, which
another
is
thing I heard.
But I mean, that's
honestly like
he probably cries every night knowing I was in the Death Note live action fucking movie. I played the Green Goblin. I did so many more things with my life than this.
Honestly, I'm so I'm really surprised this was made into a movie at all because, for one, it's so hard to make an anime movie good.
Yeah.
And to make
Dragon Ball
Death
Z,
Note-
for example.
Yeah. Like, it's just such a hard thing to do, especially even with Death Note because there's just so much going on. There's so much stuff that happens, and it's hard to pick and choose what to put in and what to leave out.
Yeah.
And I think on one end, like, for me, like, the only reason that I began watching the anime is because I knew this movie was out, but I was like, I've heard bad things, I should watch the anime first. And
Absolutely.
after watching the anime, I'm concerned about watching the movie.
Yeah.
And,
If you watch the movie, my personal opinion, I have not watched the movie. I don't have any interest in watching the movie. It doesn't seem like something that would interest me. The only reason, to anybody, whether they're in this room or sitting at home listening, that you would want to watch the movie is one of two reasons. You're bored as shit. And you have to be really bored to watch this movie because I've heard terrible things about it. Or number two, you really love Death Note so much that you really don't care about how awful the live action film could be.
Yeah.
And you want to entertain yourself, and that's totally fine. I mean, just because other people are saying it's bad, regardless, whether it's online reviews or it's people in real life that you're speaking with, I've heard nothing positive about it. I would say watch it if you really want to. I have no desire to watch it. I think Willem Dafoe did a fantastic job in the Spider-Man movies, and I don't know fucking anybody else in that movie, so that I don't care.
And maybe the reason that it is made into a live action is because it was
Money.
You've heard it here first, folks.
Wow,
Money.
it's almost like kids watch like Netflix all the time. So
But it's
we
also-
just made this movie, they'd watch the fucking anime, and then they go to Hot Topic and buy all our shit.
It would have been better with Zac Efron.
Zac Efron.
Would have been better with Zac Efron. There's not a person in the world I cannot murder.
Write in their names in the Death Note. Wow, I think oh man.
Fuck you,
Did we just-
Larry.
Oh wow, okay. We just saw Death Note live action.
Yeah,
okay.
that's-
Alright,
Listen,
we
it was
did it,
a
guys.
casting thing.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
Should have got the High School
I mean,
Musical.
that's how they got
back
Phoenix
together.
right.
Zac
Oh.
They
Efron.
had a musical. So.
Starring Zac Efron. He finds a book. He writes names in it. They all die.
I just don't know. I can't choose between basketball, singing, and murder.
And becoming the god of a new world full of justice. Oh, definitely. So, okay.
High School Musical.
High School Musical with a little twist. Alright, so definitely, maybe we're definitely biased here, I think, but if you're gonna watch Death Note, watch the anime.
Watch the anime.
Then watch the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. Definitely suggest the anime and the manga.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. You know, you can take a chance with the movie. I'm not sure if you should, but I don't know how much.
It's there.
It's there.
So there's naturally an order to these things. You should always check out the manga first before even watching the anime. If you really think that you're gonna fall in love with the series, you should always check out the manga first. It's the literal adaptation of what it's supposed to be. Plus, it's got pictures, so it's not that hard to read. But then after that, you migrate.
Right to left.
Right. It's right to left. I mean, it's backwards from normal land. But absolutely always check out the manga, check out the anime, as a transition afterwards. And then, if there's a live action movie, don't watch it. No matter what it is, just don't watch it, period. That's my advice. Just don't do it. Unless you want to be disappointed and contemplate suicide more than you already do, go ahead.
There you go, folks. You heard it here first. Thank you very much for listening,
Thank
and we'll
you.
talk to you again soon.